Welcome to the SAP Business One virtual event for 2022. A big thank you for joining us today from wherever you are in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji or Singapore. Amanda here from marketing, and I'm joined by our panel of SAP experts. So let's meet the team today. I'm joined by Yarrow Bailey, Senior SAP Business One Development Manager, and Ketan Solanki, our SAP Business One Manager, many of you will know. And also two of our consultants, Ross Howard and Anthony Donato, and Eduardo Barte, known as JR, and he's SAP's SME Solutions Expert. We'll be handing over to JR shortly. And lastly, Justin Hall, our New Zealand BDM, who's teaming up with Ross to present POS. And handing over to you, Yarrow.
Welcome all. So today we'll be going through the roadmap with Business One. JR will be presenting that, and followed by Ketan going through the latest feature packs in Release 10. After the feature packs, then we'll be going through a new opportunity for you all around the new invoice recognition technology available with SAP Business One. And then having a look with Justin and Ross, the new checkout from SAP, followed by Anthony showing the tips and tricks that we usually run by. It's usually run by Ketan, but this year we've got Anthony, a new voice for you all. So I'll hand over now to JR.
Thank you, Yarrow. Well, to start off, I'm very pleased to present this award to MicroChannel team, and this award speaks of the commitment, quality of work, and customers' positive impact of MicroChannel to its customers and to ANC region. And we have three handsome gentlemen here. We have Yarrow, Ketan, and they received the award. We had that event last few weeks, just this month, and then Andre here is our head of channel for ERP in the ANC region, and this is the specific award given to MicroChannel team. And as part of the MicroChannel family, I for sure you will be very proud of the award given to them. Second agenda that I'll be having now for the next few minutes is I'll be giving you SAP Business One product roadmap. And I'll be sharing to you the following. Well, before the agenda, let me just quickly introduce myself. Maybe you're receiving some of my emails. I'm Eduardo Barte, but I'm mostly called as JR, and I'm the SAP Business One solution expert in charge of ANZ and some of countries in Southeast Asia. So mentioning about my topics, I'll be highlighting the 10.0 releases because I understand some of you are still in the family of version 9. And then what's the product roadmap, what to expect specifically for this year. I'll start with the 10.0 releases. Just to share that globally for 27 years, B1 has been there for 27 years. It's as old as ER actually. And just for you to know that you're one of the 70,000 plus global customers using the solution, and that speaks of the quality and proven track record of the solution in more than 170 countries. And talking about the roadmap of Business One, this has been shared year 2019. This is Rainier Zeno, our Senior Vice President, Head of Mid-Market Management. He shared before, maybe some of you have read this one, but I'd like to reiterate for you to be convinced and to have an information that SAP Business One is absolutely strategic. We are fully committed to the next 10 or 20 years because there are some of those customers in other parts of the globe who may have doubts and have hearsays that B1 is no longer a part of lost by SAP in the later on years. This statement is a commitment of SAP. This speaks as a solution will be continuously be developed, and you as a customers will of course be benefiting because I understand you will be having your investments towards the solution as well. So yeah, to cut it short, those hearsays are now closed as this statement has been released by our SVP. And as we go with the major versions of SAP Business One. Just an additional information that each major version is maintained with the mainstream maintenance of at least 5 years. So May of last year, May 2020, general availability of version 10.0 has been released. So we may have an idea that the next major version may be officially stated by SAP around 2024 or maybe around 2025. Previous years, those who are using family of version 8 or version or the family of 9, well, I believe you have an information already that your version is already out of mainstream maintenance. That would mean SAP will still be supporting just in case there are escalations, but as to fixes and patches, if there is any, or if there are any, that one you will be required to somehow upgrade to the latest version. Okay. So just to highlight again the major releases of SAP Business, minor releases of SAP Business One. Since the version 10.0 as of May, SAP has shifted to releasing quarterly updates on the solution. Okay, so 2020 we have released 3 minor versions. 2021 we have 4, and we're expecting as well 4 for 2022. Right now, released December 2021 is the FP 2111 version. The 11 stands for the month, and 21 stands for the year. So this is the estimated release of the next version. This note, I've shared a link here, pasted a link here. This will redirect you to the available timeline as to when is the minor version be released. So we're expecting around April, that's next month, on the release of FP, that's feature package. Previously, it's known as patch level, but for the version 10 and moving forward, it's already termed as feature package. Okay, if you have an issue encountering or you need help in downloading this information or this note, please feel free to reach to MicroChannel. So my challenge here is that I know SAP has a lot of continuous improvements, enhancements in the solution, and I challenge really that you go update your solution, talk to MicroChannel team how this solution or how these updates will be helping you. Okay, and as to the product role, by the way, the patches, the feature package that I'm sharing will be digging deeper by Ketan. Later, he has his presentation as well as to what are those functions or enhancements that are being made available in the versions. Okay, now for the product roadmap, generally this was released year 2018, 2019, and I'll be telling you that there's no change as to the release of this long-term roadmap. Okay, so all strategy of SAP, not limited to B1, not limited to S4, but all product of SAP is leaning towards cloud. Okay, that's our one major strategy. And this is where the web client, the continuous enhancement on SAP Business One Cloud Partner and SAP hosted solutions are leaning towards too. Mobile apps are there, and there's this information as well because there are those customers who are using SQL that may have a question on JR. Is our SQL still be supported? Because I'm hearing some of users again that my SQL will no longer be updated, will no longer be supported because everyone or everything is moving towards SAP HANA. So I'm giving you a clear answer now, a clear picture that SQL will still be supported. It's being included in terms of quarterly release cycles as to the feature package. And this is what I'd like to share in details as to what will happen on the versions of on the feature packages here. So 2002, so these are the 4 areas that are being looked upon by the SAP product development team. So first focus is really going into web client. You may have been using web browser, okay? This is web client for those who don't know. This is the new way of opening SAP Business One or consuming SAP Business One with a Fury style design. The Fury speaks of the UI of SAP Business One. If you look into S4, you look into other SAP solutions by design, it's all Fury. That would mean B1 looks the same with other SAP solutions. And this year, we know that currently it's not all yet complete, but this year, the product team is working on releasing updates, major updates on purchasing service, analytics, purchasing, inventory, product management, production, finance, production. Because when it has been released first, the web client is more of smaller marketing, a few marketing documents made available, and that's why it's not being fully consumed by most of the users. So slowly, some customers are already migrating in terms of using the web client. Of course, localization. So internally, I'm the one in charge for this one, doing checking on key enhancements as to localization. So there are the same as well that we are working on for ANZ region. Extension and integration. So this year, the Office 365, the Outlook 365 is already made available, especially to web client. There are key enhancements as to service layer API. So these are mostly for extensibility purposes. And of course, the mobility platform as part of the cloud strategy of SAP Business One. Okay, there's this video that I've pasted here by our SVP Rainier Zeno on the 2021 and outlook for 2022. There are more details here. If you'd like to see and check on it, please feel free to check on this link. And next part is more of sharing how SAP is being made upon or being driven by all these enhancements. So I'd like to share three things. First is on the globalization. So those localizations that I mentioned, because global reach is one of key strengths of SAP. Second is on the web client in line with the cloud strategy of the organization. And third is in terms of the customer influence program. So JR, what is this all about? So in each product of SAP, there's this customer influence program where internally we are discussing all entries. There are entries that each customer and partner will be raising in this portal. Okay, so these entries are functionalities or enhancements that you as a customer or you as a part, or maybe through MicroChannel, they will be raising it in the portal for it to be available in SAP Business One. So all those enhancements are being reviewed, being checked upon, and in every year we are releasing this report, okay, on what are those entries that are being delivered, are being considered, being rejected, and for long-term consideration. So what I'm sharing here is that you as customers has a voice on how we shape SAP Business One. Have that through discussing or through talking with MicroChannel, and then if maybe there's no solution or maybe no add-on as currently, they can have that one through having an entry in the customer influence program. And talking about the web client, so I just wanted to highlight that these are the modules that we're looking into the SAP Business One client version or maybe through web browser access. And in web client, these are partially available. So not all marketing documents are available yet, to be available based on the one that I've shared on key targeted enhancements this year. And the versions released for your reference here. Okay, by the way, again, I'm sharing my slides for your reference. And if you'd like to know more in details, what are these marketing documents or how the web client looks like, please feel free to reach out to MicroChannel for them to assist you. And there are a lot of things going on with web client, and really most focus of the product development team is through this functionality. The key enhancements that I have highlighted here, the create and update of item master data and BB master data is made available. Relationship map, it supports already SQL and HANA version. The approval is already in web client. Even the extensions of the UDT, UDO, and UDFs are there in the web client in the latest version. And so much for that. I know I'm already time. So what those enhancements that I've been sharing, this is a message for everyone that SAP Business One is used as a platform, as a core. And the enhancements as to analytics, as to mobility, as to other machine learning capabilities, which I'm very excited as well, because one of the topics here is using the advanced technology that is already available in SAP Business One, and having these platform as a solution. I would say talk to MicroChannel and discuss more of what you can do more, what you can do with your solution, with your SAP Business One to grow your business bigger and have your business run better.
Thank you very much, JR.
Okay, thanks, JR. So we'll be introducing the next topic. So we'll be going through the feature pack for Business One version 10. Over to you, Kenton.
Thanks, Yarrow. So as JR mentioned earlier, SAP has moved to a quarterly release cycle, and the most recent release that's available is the 21.11. Note that the next release is coming out, and it should be available in the next couple of weeks. So there is a 22.02 coming out very soon. But let's look at what's been released in 21.11. Note we have done a number of presentations in the past in relation to the previous feature packs. So if you do go to our YouTube channel, you will be able to view all those videos from the last 18 months or so as version 10 has progressed. So let's now look at version 21.11 and what new features have come in. As once again, if I refer back to what JR was saying, a number of a big focus of SAP is around the web client, and a number of features have been introduced with 21.11. So let's start going through those. So the first one is the handling of serial and batch numbers inside sales documents, and specifically the ability to auto-allocate those numbers. So a couple of releases ago, serial and batch support was introduced. So what's been introduced now is the ability to handle those the auto-allocation, which is similar to what you could do in the standard SAP. So let's go have a look at a transaction here, which has got items that are serial and batch managed. So if I look at the contents, I've got two items. The first item is a serial controlled item, and the second one is a batch controlled item. I can go copy to delivery. And so now I'm in the delivery screen, and in the contents area, I can go in, and when I go into the batch and serial allocation, I've got this button here that says auto allocate. So I can simply click that, and what it'll do is just pick the oldest ones and assign them from the top. And likewise, I can do the same thing on the batches, and I can go do auto select, and it'll just pick the first batch in the list. So that's the first enhancement, and of course you just go through and in the normal way add and create that particular transaction. So if I go back to the home page, the next enhancement is around business partners, and specifically in terms of how you can view your business partners. So if you look here in the selection view area, there's this new option called business partner addresses. So from here, I can go in, and now I'm looking at the same information but categorized by customer address. So if I expand on a particular address, I can see if I expand on a customer, I can see all the addresses under that customer. What I can also do is select one, and if need be, I can remove that address from here. So it gives me some ability to maintain addresses in a more logical way. And then, of course, you can obviously go and create new customers and records and so on. So moving along, the next one is like sort of machine learning, or the intelligent enterprise type technology being now available in Business One, and specifically it's this option called Scan Business Card. So what this allows you to do is you can take a photograph or scan a business card from someone you've met at a meeting, and if you want to, let's say, now turn them into a lead in your system, or perhaps even a supplier or a customer, you can essentially then let the system read the data that's on that card and convert that into an actual record inside SAP. So let's just maybe first I'll go into SAP in here, and if I look at my list of leads, I've got, so let's say my last number is there, L1004. So I'm going to go and say scan a business card. And I could use the, if I had an automated numbering sequence, I could have picked that numbering sequence and then the system would have assigned the number. I'm just going to say, well, next number in my list is 5. And I want to add this number both to my the address details both to my ship to and bill to. And then if I just go and select, and so let's just quickly look at what I've got here. So if I open this, there we go. Let's repeat this. So anyway, I've got a business card here which has got, John Doe is the person's name, works at MicroChannel, there's the address, and so on. So I've got those details on a business card. I just want to then select that. And now this is being sent back into the SAP Cloud Platform. Note you do need the business technology platform and the platform we're going to talk about in the accounts or AP invoice recognition process, but that's the same platform that's used in this technology as well. So if I come back into SAP and look up the customer, I can see it's created a record. It doesn't have any details yet. And it's saying it's pending the scan result. We just need to wait for the service to return the data back once it's read through the data. So it's done it now. So you can see that it's created the customer, it's put in the details, MicroChannel, it's put in the email address, it's put in the phone number it found, it created the contact person, it created the position, and it also put in the address details. So I mean, it's just showing you the power of technology and the integration capabilities that SAP brings with it. So let's now look at the next point in the presentation, which is looking at, let's go back to home. So the next one is the ability to partially copy rows from a transaction. So if I've got a sales order, and if that sales order has got multiple lines, right now, the only thing I can do is highlight the whole transaction and then go copy to. What I've got now additionally is the ability to go through form settings and add the item number onto the grid. And now I'm seeing, one line for the item row. And then I can say I want to convert that line, and let's say perhaps that line into a delivery. So once I've selected that, I can go copy to delivery. And it essentially will just copy those lines, those specific lines only to my target document rather than all the lines or and also this is coming from multiple transactions. All right, so let's move on to the next point, or the next enhancement, which is around the purchasing module. In the purchasing module, now we've got 2 additional transactions that we can create, which are the creation of accounts payable invoices and the creation of goods received POs. So these are 2 that have just been introduced with 2111. So you'll see that the functionality has increased gradually over the various feature packs as they've come out. I mean, in terms of the actual entry process for this transaction is no different from how you'd enter a sales order or a invoice or any of those sort of related transactions. So it's all pretty much consistent and standard in terms of usability, similar to how if you were entering a transaction in the SAP traditional client. So moving on to the next point then, we've now got the ability to create incoming and outgoing payments as well, right? So you can view them. So you can go and look at an existing one. It's okay. But what you can also do is either click on the new option there, or if we're on the main menu system, you can go and say create a new incoming payment. And then you've got two options as well. You can either create it for business partners, or you can create it for GL accounts. So, if you were doing a payment against a GL account, you could also do it. So let's do incoming payment against customer. We can go select a customer. And then in the contents area, you'd select the invoices that have been paid. If they've been partially paid, you can also do that. And then you got to go and select the payment means. And the two options that are currently available are either as a bank transfer or as cash. So you can select either one of those. You can still do the Control B to put in the total dollar value. And then you can simply add the transaction, and that'll record the payment back into SAP. You've also got user-defined fields that you can view here as well. So let's just add that. So the outgoing payment process works exactly the same. It's the same interface. And this is the actual recorded transaction. Moving along, so the next transaction that's been introduced is in the HR section. Within the HR section now we've got the ability to enter timesheets or view timesheets. So these timesheets are related back to the projects module as well as to service calls. So if I go look at an existing one, I can see these all the timesheets that have been entered. I can go look at one there. These are the ones that have been entered. You can see that there's also a link back into a service call. So if I clicked on the link, I can then open up the actual service call as well. So, you've got that sort of golden arrow drill down capabilities as well directly from here. So to go and if I come back to the menu and say create a timesheet, I can then do it against an employee or a user or an external person. So let's say user, and then pick Jason Butler, and then you do a bunch of date ranges. And then in here you go select the date, select the time, start and end. Pick the type of activity you're doing. If there is a service call related, you can also select that from a list. And then if there are any break times and so on. And then you basically add that, and that then becomes a timesheet back in SAP. Okay, moving on to the next point. You've now got the ability to create queries inside the web client. And then you can also execute those queries and view the results of those queries. So there's in the analytics section, we've got the user-defined queries. Just for word of note that these queries cannot have any parameters currently, so they're got to be queries without any parameters. If you're used to sort of writing queries inside SAP where you can put runtime parameters, that's not currently available. I'm sure JR and his team are working hard at including that as well. So let's just have a look at this. If I go and look at this particular query that I've already pre-written, so it's just basically going to give me a listing of all my customers by group and what is their current balance. So I can see the query, I can see what columns are part of the query. I can also, if I wanted to edit the data, I can put in links and I can say, that particular column's linked back to business partner master data, and so on. And then you can also preview the data. So when you preview the data, you can see the output of the result. But the other thing you can also do is, of course, you don't have to come in and preview the data. You can just say open in list view. When you do that, it executes the query. Now you've got 3 tabs or 3 options here to see the data. So you've got the data in a tabular view. And you'll notice that it's got that drill down because I did put the drill down or the relationship in there. So now I can go in and sort of drill in and view the customer record if I wanted to. You've got the ability to also go in and look at the data in a chart view. So when you get into the chart view, you can then sort of say, well, I want to see, for example, the balance, and I want to see the balance, say, by customer group, and I want to see it then by the card code. So you can get that sort of a view of the data, and I mean, there's many different methods here. Now, these functionality around how you chart and view the data, that's been there for a while. What's new is the ability to create queries and view the data once you've written the query. And then the third tab here, which is the view that the system took me to start with, is the card view. So in here, I can predefine different views that I'd want to see in relation to this particular piece of data. So in this case, I've just created a pie graph or more like a donut graph, and it's got the data in there as I wanted to see. All right, so that's your queries and the abilities with the queries. Note once again, just it doesn't allow you to input any runtime parameters, so you cannot feed data. But I mean, you could write the query with some predefined filters, and it will return the data with the predefined filters. Okay, back to our sales transactions. So if I look at, once again, if you go back and look at a sales order, the next feature that I want to talk about is the ability to do emails from here. So you can go in and you can send via email. Right. Now when I select this, okay, well, I don't, that's what I was about to say. I don't have this set up with my Outlook. So there's a bit of configuration step to get this done. I haven't got that configured on my system, but just it's worth pointing out that you now do have the ability to send emails directly from the web client. The next point also I'm just going to talk about is the ability to have integration with Microsoft Teams. Now, this particular option also requires your Microsoft Teams admin to allow you to install a particular app that is available with the installation. So if you look up, or if you just Google, Microsoft Teams integration with SAP Business One, you'll see some really good videos around that integration. Likewise with the Outlook as well. So do go have a look at those two. Now the third point I'm going to, or the final point I'm going to cover around the web client is you've now got the ability to change the position of a line in the grid. Okay, so if you're looking at an existing order and you want to change the order in which these appear, you can go into edit mode, and once you're in the edit mode, you can highlight a line, let's say last line, and then you can say, I want to move that up in the list. And that's how you can resequence the lines on a transaction, and then you can save those away. All right, so that covers all the enhancements that I was planning to talk about within the web client. Now we're going to go and look at what has been enhanced inside the SAP client. So let's have a look at first one is the ability to do attachments on bills and materials. So that's a new feature that when you look at an existing BOM, there is a tab called attachments. Now what's also nice with this is you can check a box and say, when I'm creating a production order, I want this attachment to be copied to the production order as well. Now, there is a setting in the system for you to activate this. It's not activated by default. It's under administration, system initialization, document settings. There's a checkbox here under attachments in the general tab, copy attachments from BOM to production. So you've got that ticked, then you'll be able to set this. And once you've set it, when you do create a production order, and if you go to the attachments tab, you can see that that particular attachment from the bill of material has come directly through to the production order. Okay, the next enhancement is just in relation to blanket agreements. There are some additional columns in the blanket agreements fulfillment report. So if you look at the report there, some additional columns have been added to this report to make it more feature-rich. Moving on. The next one is around queries. So if you're used to writing queries, one annoying thing with queries was if you ever wanted to edit an existing query, you have to execute it first, and then you can go in and edit the query. You now have the ability to just right-click on the query and say edit, and so then it'll open up the query in edit mode without having pre-executed it. The next couple of enhancements are more around increase of field sizes. So the standard telephone number field in the database has now been increased to 50 characters. So that field there, any field that's defined as a telephone field, used to be 20, now it's 50. And the other enhancement around field sizes is the item master data. The foreign name field is also now 200 characters. Item description went to 200 at some point, but now foreign name field is also the same. That concludes the highlights of the feature pack, release 21.11.
Okay, thanks, Ketan. So the next point that Ketan will be going through is invoice recognition. New feature of SAP Business One.
Thanks, Yaro. So this one is, it works off a service that SAP provides in the cloud. Yeah, so it's a service that runs, SAP runs in the cloud, and it's called the Document Information Extraction Service, or in short form, DOCS. What that allows you to do is get a supplier invoice, and you scan it, it be either PDF or a JPEG or something of that sort. What you do is you copy that particular PDF into a predefined folder on your server. The service within SAP is monitoring that folder, and when it finds a new file, what it does is picks it up and sends it into the cloud to the SAP's docs service. And so then it comes back. The data comes back to SAP. SAP then reads the data and then works out what to do with it next. And it'll be one or two things. It'll either be a transaction that has an existing base document, and if that's the case, it'll attempt to map it to, say, a purchase order or a goods receipt PO, or it'll recognize that there aren't any base documents, and I'm just going to move forward and perhaps you may need to specify GL accounts to map because it's a service type document. So that in a nutshell is what this does. Now, this particular solution has been available since Feature Pack 21.02. There have been significant improvements delivered in the next couple of feature packs, and it's something worth exploring now. Now, note that the actual service in the cloud is a paid service. It's not a free service, but I think it's fairly economical. Pricing is. You can talk to your account manager around that. But it runs on the SAP's Business Technology Platform, or BTP. Some of the prerequisites in making this work is you do have to have B1IF and the electronic documents framework service installed. I mean, these are all standard installations, but there's a little bit of configuration you have to do inside the EDS or EDF service, as well as there is a little bit of configuration inside SAP Business One as well. So, under your administration, system initialization, document settings, there is a tab called the electronic documents tab. And in there, you've got to sort of turn this particular service on, or this particular feature on. And then there are some settings and parameters that you have to supply based on your account that you've set up within the BTP platform. So there is a little bit of setup, but once you've done that, then you can start making use of this service. So let's have a look at how it actually works. So let's go and find a couple of invoices that I've got. So I've just set up a couple of invoices from two different suppliers. So the first one I've got is a supplier called Anthony Smith, and he's just my aircon repair person, and he's sent me an invoice for $2,000 here. The next one is an invoice from another supplier. In this supplier, I'm buying product from. So they're Acme Associates, and I'm buying a couple of printers from them. And that's the invoice that they've sent me for that. And note that I do have a purchase order with them in relation to this invoice. So what happens then is you've received these invoices, you copy them, and you place them into the predefined folder that SAP is monitoring. Right? So I've got it here. And so I place it into that folder. SAP is going to monitor that, and oops, it's already taken it. It found a couple of files. It's identified that they were there. And if I look in the processed folder, I'll see a couple of files. Now, if you're a bit technical, you'll notice if I open this file up, and firstly, if I open it now, it really doesn't have a lot of information. It's saying status pending. So somewhere in the cloud, SAP is now reading this, trying to decipher the data inside the files. And once it's sort of worked out what's in there, it's going to return the data back. So I can already see that one of the files has been processed because the size of the file has gone larger. It's now 7 megs before it was 1 meg, or 7 KB before it was 1 KB. If I open up that file, I'll see a lot more going on here. So it sort of found the information, it's positioned the data, it's saying, well, these are all the values I'm seeing inside the file, and I'm sending this raw data back to you in sort of a JSON format, which is some sort of a technical format. For those programmers amongst us, they'll know what that means. But what then happens is your accounts payable person back in SAP would come in. They go into the purchasing area, and they'll run the electronic document import wizard. You come in here, so there's a little bit of setup involved. By default, the system's already configured to say, I'm going to create AP invoices. And then there's some technical configuration as to how it's going to read the data that's coming back in the JSON file, what fields are getting mapped to what areas, and so on. So this is sort of a default configuration. And then from here, if you see this upload files option, if you receive the same data from some other source, if you had some other sort of image recognition system that would return the data in the same format, you could select a file from from that folder, but by default, if you sort of process through, it has recognized. And now let's look at what we've got in this particular grid here, right? So you can do a little bit of filtering here. You can also see what information you want to view. So you can just say, you know, I just want to see files that have been determined. Determined means that SAP has sent the data back, and it has been successfully mapped back in SAP, back in SAP Business One. You can also see if anything has errored out. So this is a previous one that I had that had errored out, and it's the reason it errored out is saying, well, it looks like you had already previously imported this file. Are you sure you really want to reprocess this? I don't think so. This should fail. And then it could be aborted because you've decided you're not going to go ahead with it. But let's just look at the ones that have been determined. So you can see the details. You can see the supplier that it's mapped to. Now, if I keep moving through the process, in here, it's now showing me the mappings. So on the first one, it's saying it couldn't actually match it properly, right? Even though it found the supplier and it knows the total, it hasn't been able to match it. So let's just expand on this and see why it couldn't match it. Well, it's basically saying, I cannot see an item code relating to this. So if I clicked on this link, I can see the underlying invoice, and I can clearly see that this wasn't for a product purchase, right? This was some sort of service that I did. Well, you know, it was my aircon repairman. So in reality, it won't be able to automatically match it anyway to a product. I can see the rest of the information is correct. I can see the totals and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So what I can do then is I can say, well, let's not skip it. Let's generate it as a service type document. And then I can go in here and I can say, well, let's see what expense account I'm going to code this to. It's probably, let's say, building maintenance, and I'll do the same on the next line there. I'll code that to building maintenance as well. So that's on that first one, the service invoice from our aircon repairman. The next one there is fully matched. Everything got matched, and it also recognized that there was an underlying purchase order linked to this. Right? It recognized that this purchase order had the same products, similar price, and I'm going to go with it. I could also change my mapping. So if I wanted to, I could go and say, actually, you know, clear that base document. I'm going to select something else, and all those types of things. So I've got more options here as well in terms of mapping. But if I'm happy with what SAP has now mapped for me, I simply go next. And now it's created 2 AP invoices for me, which I can then go and review. And if I'm happy with the data that it's producing, I can add that as a real document. The other thing you'll notice is in the attachments tab, it's got the PDF that was pushed through. And in the electronics document, you can see, you know, what had happened through the process as well. So I can add that. And then likewise, on the next one, note this one here had an underlying purchase order, and you can see it's already recognized that it's based on the purchase order. I can go back and look at the purchase order, and likewise, it's got the attachments and so on. And I can then create that as well. And that pretty much concludes this part of the presentation.
The next session is Discover SAP Customer Checkout, and I'm going to hand over to Justin and Ross.
Thanks very much, Yarrow. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Justin Hall from MicroChannel New Zealand, and I'm going to be joined by my colleague Ross Kaywood from MicroChannel Australia. So topics for today, I'm just going to be talking about some of the relevant use cases for SAP Customer Checkout, and then I'm going to discuss some of the key benefits, the topology, what are the key components that make up the Customer Checkout solution, and then talk about some of the core features and where SAP is focusing on future features. So just a little bit of background about what are some of the use cases for the SAP Customer Checkout. Applicable right across from retail all the way through to food service, whether that be quick service, being cafes, takeaways, cinemas, all the way through to table service and sit-down service. So for MicroChannel customers, whether you have a second store at the back of your warehouse, whether you're a fully fledged retail business, or all the way through to fine dining restaurant, SAP Customer Checkout is worthy of consideration for your business. Thanks, Amanda. Just to talk to some of the key benefits that Customer Checkout will present. It is a fully featured point of sale system. So from being able to select from your products, ringing up an account, taking payment, whether that payment be by credit card, cash, loyalty points, or through the use of gift vouchers, or even on account for customers you have set up in your Business One system. It is a fully featured point of sale system with various discounting functionality and all of the key features that you're going to expect in a point of sale system. It has a component called SAP Customer Checkout Manager, which allows you to centrally manage your point of sale clients. So this means whether you have one client or 100 or 1,000, you can actually manage the look and feel, some of your daily processes, and you have a central view in real time across your entire network. One of the key elements of Customer Checkout is that it is a fully tightly integrated solution with your SAP Business One database. That means you're sharing business partner master data, item master data, pricing, and in turn, when you're working in online mode, it is also saving back to your SAP database in real time, so you have real-time visibility. The key point there, though, is that it is also capable of operating in offline mode. So it's a local installation, and therefore, if your connectivity to your database goes down, you still have the ability to operate in offline mode. There is an extensive package of reporting built into the solution. Obviously, you'll have any reporting you have set up in your SAP database, but Customer Checkout also comes with its own reporting features at client level and at the manager level as well. And one of the real areas of investment that is coming into Customer Checkout recently is the ability to extend the solution out to mobile devices, whether that be as simple as a tablet on a table allowing your end consumer customers to order, or even on a mobile device to be able to pre-order and pay for product and then collect at an agreed time. Thanks, Amanda. So here I'm just going to talk about the three key components that make up the Customer Checkout solution. Obviously, you have your SAP database in the background, but then there are three other elements. In the center, we're looking at the clients. So the clients are installed locally on machines in the premises where you're operating your point of sale. Then we have the SAP Customer Checkout Manager function, which is accessed by browser and allows you to view your network of terminals or clients. The third element is the SAP Customer Checkout Monitor. So this allows you to check the flow of messages from your database in terms of master data flowing up to your Customer Checkout client. It also allows you to check the flow of transactions back to the database, so actual sales records. Now, you would think that in online mode, that's fine. I shouldn't be needing to check my messages. But if you have an instance where you've lost connectivity and you're having to work in an offline mode, what the Customer Checkout Monitor allows you to do is log on once you're back online and check that everything you've performed in an offline mode has synced back through to your database. So three key factors: the client, the manager, and the monitor. Okay, so just a quick discussion around some of the core functionality that exists here. Obviously, the ability to rack up a sale and complete a sales process, and executing payment, whether that be by card, cash, credit, or loyalty points. The ability exists in the system to be able to manage your articles, so article being the customer checkout term for items. It is tightly integrated with your Business One database, but there are additional functions that you can perform within customer checkout in addition. It is a fully integrated solution, carries its own reporting package, has the ability for customers to both earn and spend loyalty points, and you can control both how they are earned and spent, those rates, and what triggers those activities. We can integrate with multiple payment gateways so that you have many different pathways for collecting payment. And of course, this is applicable to any type of item inventory that we're selling, and it applies to both food and beverage, and also has functions around table management. Just this next slide talks about the future direction and some of the elements that are available in Feature Pack 12 that we've been talking about today, and just gives you a guide on where SAP is going with the product. It is constantly making improvements to the user interface itself, bringing the customer checkout manager in line with the Fiori user experience that we have with other SAP products. But there's also a big shift to that extendability and flexibility in terms of your ultimate customers being able to order on mobile devices or order from tables. Many enhancements around the areas of gift cards and loyalty, and also about how the system is accessed. So now I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Ross, and you're actually going to get to see the solution, and we'll be available at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you might have.
Hi everyone, thanks Justin. I'm Ross Kaywood from MicroChannel Australia. Today I'll be showing you around the customer checkout product. As Justin mentioned, there's three core components to customer checkouts, and what you can see here in front of you is the actual terminal where you process transactions. If I click over here, we go to the SAP Customer Checkout Manager. This is where you can control your users, you can control how your look and feel looks at a central level. You can do all your gift cards, loyalty, and all that sort of configuration here as well, and push it out to the terminals. And then we've got the monitor. So this is where you'll review what's processed through the SAP when it's on an offline mode, and you'll see any inconsistencies in this window. Okay, so now just to run through a couple of features of customer checkout. So what we can do in customer checkout is each terminal and each store can be assigned a customer code from SAP in order to segregate each store from each other. And what that allows you to do is every time you make a sale, you don't have to select a customer. So in this example, I'll just be selecting an item and I can just make a sale. So we've got different payment terms as well. So if I click on here, we can pay by cash, card, by gift card, on credit, or what we can do as well is pay by loyalty points. So customer checkout has the ability for your customers to accumulate loyalty points as well as spend them. So in this example, I'm just going to pay by my credit card, and you'll see the sales going through. If I jump to SAP, sorry about that. I can go to the last invoice and I can see here's the sale in SAP. Produces the payments as well and reconciles the transaction. Okay. Another key function of customer checkout is that it can handle discounts from SAP. So if you've got special pricing set up in SAP, you can sync it through to customer checkout. If I choose this item, I can see it's applying the discount that's set up in SAP. Another key feature is serialized items. So it does have the functionality to handle serialized items. So if I click on this, it'll ask me to choose a serial number, and I can search from the list. I can select the right one and say done. What we can do as well is we can adjust the quantities. We can adjust discounts on a line level. We can also do discounts on a header level by clicking on this, and that will give us a discount on a header level. The other thing the customer checkout does allow us to do is to do AR reserve invoices. So if we select receipt type, we can process a reserve invoice. I can also look up different stock quantities in different warehouses. So by going to search an article, and that's your items in SAP, I can search any article and I can choose stock overview. That will then bring me all my warehouses in SAP with their stock. So if you don't have stock of an item in your store, you can guide a client to go to another store. The other features that customer checkout has is to do cash in, cash out transactions. So if you need to take money out of the till to pay for something, you can, as well as your day end closing, which is your cash up. So you can conduct your cash up from the actual customer checkout itself as well. And that concludes my part from customer checkout. Thank you, Amanda.
Hey, thanks very much, guys. All right, so we're off to upskill your user knowledge and with tips and tricks. Anthony, take it away.
Thanks for that, Yarrow. So, hi, I'm Anthony from MicroChannel Australia. I'm just going to take you through some tips and tricks of using SAP Business One. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is if I go into any screen within SAP Business One, there are lots of keyboard shortcuts that you can use in order to navigate through the system. So I'm just going to show you the best, one way to find out what shortcuts you have available to you in any particular screen. So I just choose any customer. Essentially, in your menus, you will see little shortcuts next to each of these types of areas. So if I look at my data menu, I can see if I want to go into find mode, I can do Control F. Next record, previous record, so we've got Control arrow for that way as well. Also, in my go-to menu, I can go to my business partner code, first row, last row, using these particular shortcuts. Okay, as well as going to my payment means using Control Y, gross profit, Control G, and volume and weight calculation, Control W. So, for example, if I choose an item, Control G will give us a very quick look at our gross profit. Control Y will take us into the payment means, Control W. So each screen has its own list. So if I go into an item master, if I go to my go-to menu, or if I go to my data menu, I've got certain shortcuts available as well. Okay, so that's always knowing your shortcuts, it makes processing go a lot faster. Okay, another one we want to take you through is address formats. So if you're dealing with multiple countries, chances are that you may need multiple address formats because each country has some unique attributes to its address setup. So the way we do this in SAP Business One is in our administration area, in our setup area and our business partners area, we've got two main sub-menus. Okay, so we have our countries and regions, and we have our address formats. So I'll take you into our address format, and I'll take you into our countries and regions. Okay. So then in our address formats, again, if I'm using my shortcut keys to go into find mode, I can bring in a particular address formats. And you can see that we have quite a number of address formats standard in the system. So if I go into our Australian address format, this is where we're building up our address formats. Okay, so we can customize them accordingly. So we have all of our fields that are available to us, and we can simply move fields, drag fields, and so on and so forth, and create. If I go and add a row, I can create additional kind of addresses that I can drag in as well. I've also got the ability to hide empty address lines. So if we're using multiple address lines and there's gaps within the data, if we hit the hide address lines, then that's going to hide those gaps. Okay, so once we've created our address formats, then we can assign them to particular countries. So we'll see that Australia is assigned the Australian format, If we have, we've got a European standard address format. I think if we look at, say, I go to my US or my United Kingdom has a United Kingdom and Ireland format. So you'll see that if we go into the United Kingdom format, then that's going to be have a different setup in its own right. So that's how we can manage our address formats. Another feature within the countries area, we can set some validations for various fields as well. Okay, so that's our address formats. Okay, so sometimes when we're order processing within the system, SAP comes up with an item price. So sometimes it's good to look where it's getting that item price from. So if I go into a sales order screen, if I bring up my customer, and I'll just bring up a few items in my sales order screen. So there is a field that you can make available on your form settings, which is called price source. Now this field tells us where it's getting its price from. So you'll see here in my first item, it's getting it from an active price list. Second line item, it's looking at our special prices for business partner, and our third line item, it is bringing up our period and volume discounts. So this is an indication as to where it's getting its price from. If I override my price manually, then it's going to set that price source to manual. So what this allows us to do, it allows us to monitor if anybody is overriding prices in the system. First of all, it also gives us an indication or some statistics on where we're getting our pricing from the system. So I might just, I'm just going to add this sales order as well. So I've got it in the system. Okay, so another tip is if we're wanting to create a pick list for our warehouse to pick our products, normally we would go to our pick and pack manager and we would go and create a pick list based on any outstanding orders. There is a right-click function within the sales order screen that allows you to generate a pick list straight away. So if I right-click, I can do what's called generate pick list. Okay, and you'll see here that's automatically, provided we have sufficient stock and provided there's no other decisions that we need to override the system with, such as serial numbers or batch numbers, it will create the pick list for us and display that pick list. So that's another kind of shortcut to the pick and pack process. Okay. A very popular year-end process or a month-end process is to match a debtor's aging report with our balance sheet. And this is a very, there's been many occasions where this hasn't really been done right in the past, and we always get variations between the two. So this little tip and trick is showing it's a very important tip and trick. So it's going to show you how to generate a customer receivables aging report that matches a balance sheet. Okay, so if I go into my financials reporting area and if I run a balance sheet, I'm just going to run it as at 31st of December 2021. Okay, so I'm backdating this. And I'm just going to go to my debtors area. Okay, so I've got the value of my debtors in my balance sheet. So if I was to run my aging report, so my customer receivables aging, normally what I would do is I would backdate my aging to 31st of December 2021. Okay, and if I wanted to see just for a particular control account, I can choose my control account. So in this case here, I'll choose my domestic debtors. Okay, so a very important tip in order to backdate it is this is a very special option here. We need to display customers with zero balance. Okay, so what that means is that it's not going to show customers that have zero balance overall. It's more of an option that if a customer has paid their bill after our aging date, it will show them. So if they don't have a balance, then potentially it won't show them. So if I click that option, which is something to remember, and I'll click OK, and you'll see that our balance, I'll just collapse all of this and I'll minimize this screen. Well, not minimize, but I'll reduce the size of the screen. So you'll see here our balance is matching our receivables report. Like if I also do it for the other control account, you'll see, you'll see, first of all, I don't actually have an overriding balance. Another important option is that we need to set our currency in the top left-hand corner to local, because that's going to, our balance sheet is always going to display in local currency. So essentially, we're matching our balance sheet with our customer receivables aging. It seems like a simple option, but it creates a lot of difference in figures if we don't choose it. Okay, so you can see that we have a number of modules within SAP Business One. As an organization, you may not use all of these options. Okay, so in reality, you may not do production if you don't produce products, or you may not want to run MRP, or you may not use serial or batch management. So SAP Business One gives you an ability to hide those to make the menu less confusing. So in our administration module, system initialization and general settings, we have a hide functions tab. Okay, so these are the functions that SAP allows you to hide. Okay, so we have our budget, payment wizard, dunning wizard, cost accounting, serial numbers and batches, production, MRP, and units of measure. So if I, for argument's sake, hide my production and MRP module, the effect of that is that I no longer have those modules available to me. So that's essentially simplifying the menu structure and just not putting in any unnecessary modules within the system. Okay. And so this is a report that is it's quite an important report actually, that we've in the past we've done lots of custom reports to get this. So SAP, I think it's as of version 10, came out with an inventory aging report. So under our inventory module, inventory reports, okay, so we have an inventory aging report. Okay, what this report, it will tell you the age of your existing inventory that you have in stock. Okay, so if I run my report date, I'm backdating this a little bit because I've got sample data, a sample database, and this is just giving me a little bit better information to show. Then I can choose particular items based on our item code range or item group properties, and you can have warehouses that you choose or exclude. And then you can set what's called an issue strategy. So whether or not you issue last in, first out, or first in, first out. I think typically, it's first in, first out. I think that's the rules in this country anyway. So then we can also say, okay, well, what valuation do we want to give our inventory? Do we want it at the document price, or do you want it at the current price? Okay, so that's basically what price you paid for it versus the current price, list price. And then we can set our time intervals. So we can set the number of intervals here. So in this case, I've got 30, 60, 90, 120 days. So if I click OK to that, what this is going to show us, and it's just going to take a little while to run, depending on the size of the data set, it's going to take a little while. Okay. So if I look at this report, it's going to show us all of our stock on hand. So we can see here for certain products and certain warehouses, we have values and quantities in the various aging brackets. Okay, so you can see that, for argument's sake, this motherboard here, our stock, our newest stock is still over 91 days old, and we've got quite a bit of value in over 300 days. So that's actually, probably look to move that stock on a little bit. So if I double click the line number or the grey box next to the item code, that will tell us all of the data or all of the receipts that we've received this stock on that we still have stock. Okay, so it's quite a handy report to be able to analyze the age of your inventory. And of course, you can export to Excel and do any other data analysis that you would like to do as well. Okay. A new feature as of feature pack 2.108 of version 10 is a new button that's on the transaction screens. Okay, so I put in, I'll just choose, I'll just put some data in. Set a delivery date. You'll notice here that we've got this add and view button or add button. And we've also got now this add draft button, which is quite a nice one. So what I can do is I can add my draft. And in this case here, I've added my document draft. So this document draft's been added. So I don't have to actually go to my file menu anymore and go save as draft in previous versions. Okay. So as we went through some shortcuts before, there's also some other nice report information we can see when we're processing orders as well. So when we're looking at pricing, there's what's called a last prices report that's quite accessible from any of these transaction screens as well as the item master. So if I right click on the line, okay, so then basically what I can do is I can look at my last prices. Okay, and so my last prices, this will show me all of, a number of prices that I've sold this product for this particular customer. Okay, so I can see there's my customer. These are the transaction types, and I want to display my last 10 prices. I want to include special prices or any blanket agreements or so on and so forth. Say I didn't really want to include anything else other than sales orders, I can do that as well. Okay. Also, if I wanted to display more prices, I can display more prices as well and refresh, and it will show more prices. Now, if I want to see what other customers have bought as well, I can go in and just choose customers, do the last 20 prices for all customers on this product, and it will show me. Okay. So that's from within, that's essentially a shortcut within my transaction screen. I can do my control tab in this field as well. That brings me the same thing. Okay, so that's a shortcut. We've also got it from the item master as well. So if I right click, essentially I've got a last prices report within the item master as well. It's not giving me any data, so I can choose a business partner or I can choose business partner type, whether it's vendors or customers and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's a last prices report, which is quite a handy function in the system. Okay, so another tip, I think I'm going okay for time so far, but another tip is really called a drop ship type of arrangement in SAP. So if we're selling goods to our customers and our suppliers are shipping directly to our customers, we can perform that in the system using a drop ship scenario. Okay, so if I'm in a sales order screen, so I bring up my customer. I'm just going to put in my delivery date. I choose an item. Okay, so what I can do is I can set my warehouse to be what's called a drop ship warehouse. Okay, and I've set this warehouse up to be a drop ship type of warehouse. Okay, so it can be drop ship, and we can also elect whether we manage serials or batches within this drop ship warehouse. So because I've selected this as a dropship warehouse, the system knows that I'm going to want to purchase it. Okay, so there is a little option here, procure dropship items, and that by default is ticked. Also, you can set the defaults on whether you want that ticked or not. So if I add this order, what it's going to do is going to say, well, you actually need to purchase this. So it's going to come up with a procurement confirmation wizard. And so I can just run through the process. I can click next. It can it comes up with the order line. I can click next, and it's going to come up with the target document. And essentially, I can choose either purchase order, purchase quotation, purchase request, or if it's a produced item, I can choose production order. What it also does, it comes up with a primary vendor, and I'll just go to my form settings to add my vendor name. It comes up with my primary vendor for that item. what I can also do, if I wanted to, I can do a list of preferred vendors, because within an inventory item, we can have multiple vendors for that item. I can do a list of preferred vendors or a list of, I can also override this vendor as well. Comes up with any pricing and so on and so forth. So I can just click next and next and next, and this will produce that purchase order. So from there, we can also invoice the goods. So I can create the invoice. I don't need to wait for my AP invoice to be processed to do that. I can create the invoice there and then. Okay. And then I can also, so let me go to my relationship map. I can also record my supplier invoice. So essentially that's performed that dropship process. So within the original sales order, if I look at the relationship map, you can see all of the related documents that have occurred. Okay. So another tip is, and this is quite a nice one actually, it's relating to date selections. So with SAP, if you're on the same month and same year, you don't need to fill out the entire date. So if I wanted to, say, set the delivery date for the 28th of March, I could just put in the number 28 and press tab, and that would automatically know that we're in the month of March and we're in the year 2022, so it's going to choose that. But say, for example, I wanted to put in, I want the delivery date to be 30 days from now, I could just do plus 30, press tab, and it would add 30 days to it. So I could also do weeks. So if I wanted 2 weeks, I could do plus 2W, and that's plus, oh, that'd be plus, I'll just do a month. So say if it's a month, I could do plus 1M, and it does that as well. So that's our date kind of shortcuts, so to speak. Supports minus as well. And it's probably not a good idea that you're going to set the delivery date to be a month before today, but yeah, it does support it anyway. Okay, within the order itself, I think I'm banging on about this a little bit. The right-click functionality in SAP Business One. So right-click is quite a powerful tool within the system. So if I right-click a line item in a sales order, there's lots of different options that I have. So I can do things like add row, delete row, duplicate row, open a calendar, look at the row details, create an activity, go to payment means, gross profit, batch number serials, volume and weight calculation, and the list goes on and on. So a common one is, so if they want to order a certain number of products, and if we don't have sufficient stock for them, I can right click and I can do available to promise. And this will right click, available to promise will give us our information essentially straight away. Okay, I've also got right click, and if I want to look at volume and weight calculation. So there's lots of right click options in various screens. So if I go to my item master, my right click will give us more screens as well. So I can look at things like a inventory posting list for this product, and that will show me the ins and outs of the product between a particular date range, and so on and so forth. Okay. Inventory status, last prices, bin location content list if I manage bin locations, if I've got any stock within bin locations. So there's various right-click options available. So I suggest that you just play around with the system and just right-click whenever you're on a screen and just see what's available to you. That's the easiest way to learn. Okay, so another tip and trick is knowing what users are logged into the system and when they've logged into the system and when they've logged off the system and so on and so forth. So there's actually a couple of options to us one's in the tools menu. So if we go to tools And if we go to access log, this tells us which users have accessed the system. So I can see that now I've got Alex has accessed the system. Latest log on was the 24th of March at 1:38, and latest log off was 1:37. So they must have logged off and logged on straight away. Same goes with Bill as well. So, and if I wanted to see the detail in the history, I can double click the line and it will show me all of the history of that particular user when they've logged on. So it'll also tell us the client IP address, it'll tell us the client name, date and time, what Windows user as well, and even the process ID. But you can see here it also records whenever a user has failed with their logon as well. So it gives you quite a bit of information. The other thing is, it's always hard to try and get everyone to log off the system when you need to do an update. In our utility, under administration and in our utilities area, there's what's called connected clients. And this will show you which users are currently connected to the database at this stage. So we can see here that Alex is still connected. I've actually got Alex logged on here on another screen, so that's probably me being the culprit. But I've got the option to send Alex a message, so I can please say I need to do some maintenance, please log off. So they can send Alex a message, and then essentially Alex will get that message. We'll say log off, need to do some maintenance. And if Alex still hasn't logged off, you can actually highlight the user and just say disconnect. And then that will disconnect the user. So then if I'm here as Alex, it takes a few seconds here, but eventually SAP will close down with that user login. So that's quite a handy one, because sometimes if we need to do some maintenance, people forget to log out of the system properly, and we can just forcibly log them out. Okay, so I think I've got time for one more tip. So if again, it comes back to my sales order screen and looking at inventory statistics. So for argument's sake, if I'm in my order screen and there's a couple of fields in the system. So I'm just going to, I'll put an item in there. So there's a few fields that I can make available, and I've actually made available already. If I wanted to see stock on hand, committed and on order for the selected warehouse. So if we look at our form settings do have a lot of fields here, but we've got, traditionally we had a field that was in stock, committed, ordered. And what this does, this would show stock, committed and on order for all warehouses combined. Okay, and it was always, we wanted to know for the selected warehouse what our stock availability was. So essentially those three fields make it available. So if I change the warehouse, you can see that I've only got 30 in stock in warehouse 2. I've got 966 in stock in warehouse 1. Okay. In total, I've got 996 in stock. You can also view a bit more details if you control tab on the warehouse as well. And that will give us what's called an items by warehouse report. So that gives you a bit more details as well. But those three fields that we can make visible on the sales order screen that do allow us to quickly see the on-hand levels of the selected warehouse that we choose. Okay, so that's pretty much wrapped up the tips and tricks side of things. So I think I'll hand back to Amanda.
If you have any questions about any of the solutions, please contact your account manager wherever you are in the world. And that concludes our session. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks all.